This raccoon on our Michigan Outdoors mantle has special significance to us. A raccoon opened Mort Neff's Michigan Outdoors for many, many years here on television in Michigan, and the traditions that he set are the ones that I'm following on Michigan Outdoors. How's Mort doing? Well, we visited with Mort this summer, had a great time talking with him, and I even got him to do something special. Do the old opening of Michigan Outdoors the way he did it for many years.
Could you do a tease?
Come on,
Do a
no.
tease. No, it's 7 o'clock Thursday night.
No.
How did that go? Okay, let's do it this way.
No,
How
you
did
would-
that tease go that you used to do at the beginning of the show? What was that you used to
You
say?
do it perfectly.
No, what was that? How
Hi
did you
there,
do that?
come on in. 7 o'clock Thursday night, time for Michigan Outdoors.
From the rugged shore and woodlands of the north, it's history.
In the mid-1960s, this man's face was more recognized by people in Michigan than our governor's. At 82 years old, Mort Neff is still recognized by millions of people and always will be as Mr. Michigan Outdoors. And I'm often asked, how's Mort doing nowadays?
How do I answer that when they say, what's Mort Neff doing now? Should I have him write you, call you?
Oh, I'm leading a very happy... Don't have them call me. No, I'm leading a very happy existence. I live in Harbor Springs. I live out on the shore in a rather a remote area, and I do a lot of sailing up there, and I do a lot of fishing, and I do a lot of, begins with L? Loafing.
Loafing?
Yeah.
I've never known you to do that before.
I know, but your time will come too.
Oh, well, that's hard to believe. You keep busy.
I move a lot. I think if you don't move a lot, you're just not going to continue to be ambulatory at this age. So you have to move around a lot. I walk, I don't jog. And I'm not going to endorse any breakfast foods or any other product because I can't blame it. I just, I figure let's put it this way. Look, it's all in the genes. My grandfather was 92, my mother died at 85, and it's all in the genes, really is. Depends on your heritage, I think.
Everybody thought that there's no way that you could retire. I mean, people close to you, your family said, nope, he won't retire, because you talked about it for years.
Yeah.
For years, I'm gonna retire, I'm gonna hire some people. They said, Mort Neff will not be able to handle retirement. You will work right up to the bitter end.
I don't think that.
You retired.
Well, I definitely did retire, but I figured at what was it, 72 when I retired, I think it's long enough to do a job.
But you had done that show for 23 years, 52 weeks a year. What was it like for those first few weeks off? Wasn't it sad?
Lonesome. I really was. It hurt. It's gonna hurt you when you quit too, because there's a certain what the heck, I shouldn't say certain, the whole thing. It's a very glamorous occupation. It's a big challenge, but if you got a little ham in you, you got a little ham in you.
A little bit.
And you can carry on, and of course you have to continue to have a knowledge of the outdoors, wildlife, and everything that goes with it. And you don't want to let that knowledge sag either. Keep reading.
Well,
Keep reading.
I know people recognize you today in the restaurant, everywhere we go. After you walk by, people say, that was Mort Neff. Why? They go into a whole tirade about how they used to watch you.
I don't know where the memory comes from. They certainly have great recollection, though. It's true. Almost anywhere I go in Michigan, people seem to recognize me and remember the good old days. It's very flattering. It's great. Love it.
I love it when they call me Mort. They call me Mort. Hey, Mort, how you doing? I think it's great.
I got a letter last week from a kid down in Vicksburg, 10-year-old boy. His mother had written to me and told me that he was going to write me, and he wrote me a letter, and she said his name is Mike Neff, but she said he wants to be called Mort, and he wrote a letter to me and he signed it Mort Neff. Yeah, great boy. I bet he grows up to be an outdoorsman.
Yeah.
He told me about bluegill fishing, taught me a few things. He said, come on down, I'll show you how to catch some big bluegills. I'd like to know that.
You must still get letters from fans and
Yep.
people who find your address.
Yeah, they do that.
They'll do that after we put this on the air.
Well, that's
Should
all
we
right.
run
You
your
want to
PO?
write to me, just write to me in Harbor Springs, that's all. That's
Mort
all.
Neff,
Harbor Springs, that's all.
What's the zip?
Oh, 49740. 49740. Yeah. Love to hear from you. I answer all my mail. You do too.
Well, I do. I'm going to. I'll catch up. Boy, you know the letters. That's just a job.
Well, you said you were getting 800 letters a week. 800 letters.
As it gets into the fall.
Better.
Fortunately, only about 20 or 30 of them have questions.
Yeah,
That's still a chore.
it's still a chore.
Everything to do. But
Don't let it go. Very important. Very important.
so you want to hear from, what would you like to hear from the folks? Any questions you have?
Anything they'd like to know, if I can help them, if they think I can help them more than you can, Fred, but I really think today that you're a better source than I am.
Not about the history of Michigan outdoors.
This man knows the outdoors in Michigan intimately. From the time he did a radio show in the 1940s, began TV in 1951. For 23 consecutive years, Mort Neff appeared on the show, and for hours, Mort and I talked in Ludington last summer, enjoying every minute. But unfortunately, television time forces us to end this visit much sooner than I'd like.
Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about, say, about audiences here? Right there. The old camera, looking in the camera. You miss looking in the old camera?
Oh, yeah, I miss looking in the old camera now and then, but when I see those things now, I think of all the times that I was on that end of the camera, too, don't you? Oh, those were the days, all right. But being on television that long is something that, all I can say that it was habit forming. In the first few months that I was off of that camera, I thought, I'm lost. I thought life has come to an end. But I've adjusted. I found out, you found out too, that you can really live a great life without that monkey on your back.
Yeah, every week, week after week. But it's so amazing how many people do recognize you and don't realize you've been off the air for, what, 10 years? 12 years?
9 years, yeah. But I'll tell you this, people made that show. You found this out too. You would think, they'd see you on the street and say, how in the world do you figure out what's going to happen next week? You don't figure it out. The people out there figure it out because they write to you and say, hey, I've got a crazy squirrel up in my house that wants to be a pet, or I've got a rough grouse that sits on my arm and lets me feed him cookies. You cover those sorts of things. You do that. Or someone calls up and say, hey, the salmon are really hitting up here. Come on up and we'll fish off the pier or whatnot off a boat. Anyway, the people make the show. And you know that as well as I do.
Yeah.
You don't contrive these things. They come from the tips from the audience. And that's how we made 1 million friends in all those long years. I loved it.
Mort Neff made millions of friends because of the kind of man he is, a legend in his own time. Nobody appreciates what he did for the outdoors on television more than I. Well, maybe other people do too, but in my eyes, this man deserves the credit for what I'm doing on television today. Mort Neff alone is Mr. Michigan Outdoors. Boy, it's great to see Mort on television again, isn't it? By the way, he'd love to hear from you. His address, all you have to remember, is Harbor Springs 49740. Send him a Christmas card. He'd love to hear from you. Now, a quick look at our outdoor forecast. Well, we have 2 to 3 feet of snow in the Upper Peninsula. There's always a few hardy winter souls who seek fame in the trophy book and seek a good meal while they're at it, like Jim Talbert from Bay City, who caught a 1.5-pound, 18-inch Menominee whitefish, still fishing with a worm in the Au River. Fish like this are being caught right now. Jim's Menominee was taken exactly 1 year ago this week. And here's a deer that wasn't on Big Buck Night. 11 points, a 22-inch spread with 8-inch tines. Wow. Taken on the second day of the season in southern Michigan, Tom King from Leslie had 200 pounds of big buck for the freezer. And look at the long tines on this 10-pointer, taken with a bow by Dick Griswold from Swartz Creek. This buck field dressed at 235 pounds, came from Genesee County. Here's a big buck taken with a muzzle loader. Only 8 points, it won't qualify for a Stroh's Hunting Award, but the hunter deserves special commendation. That's why we're making Barbara Hobday from Union City our Michigan Outdoors muzzleloading hunter of the week.
Congratulations, sportsmen and women across the state of Michigan. Due to your generosity on last Thursday night's Big Buck Show and the pledge breaks around it, you have made Michigan Outdoors pledge breaks the most successful in the history of PBS in the state of Michigan. Last Thursday night, we set all kinds of records. We raised $200,000 thanks to your contributions across the state. Virtually every station also set their own records. It was a phenomenal night. By the way, it just proves once again that sportsmen out there, hunters and fishermen, are ready to put their money where their mouths are when it comes to the outdoors on television. Anyone who's been up in the area around Gaylord over to Atlanta where the elk hunt is going on right now will notice there is a bunch of snow. There's about 1.5 to 2 feet through that area. One guide up there said the elk hunt, which began yesterday, well, it may not be as successful as they had hoped. The elk have changed their habits somewhat. And by the way, this outdoor reminder, the muzzleloading deer season ends this Sunday, December 15th.
Next week, of course, Bob, we have the show on the elk hunt. That's going to be an interesting story.
Oh, it was lots of fun up there,
But you know,
Fred.
people are writing us letters now about fishing. They must be getting in the mood to fish.
This one from Carolyn Roan of Bay City, Fred. She says, I would like to have information on raising night crawlers. Also, I would like to know where I can get the manual on night crawlers.
The manual on night crawlers right here. This is by Ray Edwards. Ray is going to have an article from this book in one of our spring outdoor digests. And for the address of this, you can just write to us here. Address coming up a little later. We have the address on how to obtain the book in our digest. So write for us for a copy.
Another letter, too, Fred, from Gail O'Copney of Redford Township. She says, while on vacation in Waters, Michigan, we were trolling for pike. I caught one on my orange flatfish just barely 20 inches. When I cleaned him, I noticed his stomach was bulging, so I cut it open to see what was inside. To my surprise, there was a small mouse still intact. How did the pike get the mouse? Was the mouse out for a swim? Have you ever heard of this before?
Well, I know that fishermen do use mice in some areas for bait. They have special little harnesses to harness up mice, and they're effective for bass and for pike as well. Maybe a hawk or an owl dropped it. I think that's a possibility.
Or some predator scared it in the water. It was out on a limb and fell in.
Maybe it went for a swim. Who knows? I can't answer that question to be sure. Let's see how you can do on this question in our outdoor quiz.
Does a buck deer follow a doe that is in heat by air scenting her odor, or does he follow her tracks? Bucks always track does with their noses held a few inches above the ground, following the doe's scent trail left as she walks. The bucks doing this are sexually stimulated and usually hold their tails straight up in the air as they walk.
And speaking of deer, we haven't had a big buck on the walls here of the Michigan Outdoors cabin for a whole year, Glenn. And I know people are going to think, maybe these are all Fred Trost trophies. Well, this is not true. This deer that we have on the wall now, Glenn, where did this come from?
This came from the UP in 1946.
And this was a head that you acquired
Right.
from a woman in Detroit? Is
Yes.
that right? Okay, you didn't acquire the head, though.
No, just the antlers, and we had it remounted by taxidermist up at Spruce, Michigan, Dave Reed, Deep Woods Taxidermy near Hubbard Lake.
In fact, with all the interest nowadays in big bucks, big antlers, dredging old antlers out of the attic, and a lot of taxidermists do put a new deer cape on them, take maybe a smaller buck that somebody...
Well, that's true, because it's a shame to have a big rack like this here just laying around and not give it the beauty with the rest of the form.
Well, this is a beautiful head. This will adorn the set here. We don't have a name for it. Mort Neff had Goldie the raccoon and Thumper the rabbit and all, but Glenn, I want to thank you
You're
for
more than
donating
welcome.
this through your new organization. You started a new thing here in Michigan.
Yes, I have Michigan Big Game Hunters Association, which will be recording and measuring deer, bear, elk, and turkey.
Wow, you're covering everything. Of course, on our big buck night, you saw Glenn brought some of the state record racks down, and you've, of course, at our outdoor fair and our banquets and a lot of the events we've been involved in over the years, you've come down with Gary Bandreau and provided us and the crowds with a lot of big bucks. Your big event, your kickoff for your association is January 4th.
Saturday, January 4th in Dearborn, the Dearborn Civic Center next to the Dearborn Police Station.
Interesting day that's going to be. I'm going to be there. I'm sure a lot of people will, to see what this Big Game Hunters Association is all about. Glenn, thanks for all your help, for the donation of this magnificent head. Got to have a name for him, I guess. We'll come up with that a little later. Kath, this recipe not only looks good, but this,
It's
I
a
would
winner.
say, I would say for all the rabbit recipes that have tasted the best ever, this,
That's
to me,
right.
tastes the best ever.
And it is different. It's not, you usually fry rabbit. This is not fried.
It's so tender.
Very, very tender.
Of course, you do fry it. to
We
start
brown
with.
it. You just brown it a bit. You don't want to fry it completely because it's going to be in quite a few ingredients of juice and broth. Okay, we do have different rabbit pieces. Got legs, and they're quite big.
They're quite meaty. Rabbits are runners and jumpers. The front legs have a lot of meat on them, especially when they're cooked this way so they don't shrivel up. But wait till we get to these back legs.
Yeah, yeah, you'd never guess that a rabbit leg was that big.
This is a cottontail we got right at the end of the season last year. And those are the drumsticks.
Absolutely. You can tell, too. They look like it.
No
Yeah.
breading, huh?
No, that's because it would come off in the juice anyway, so you just want to brown it. It doesn't take very long to brown it. You don't want to brown it a lot.
Here was my grandmother's favorite. She always wanted the back.
Mine too.
And over the ribs, there isn't all that much meat, although you can see, but here's the loin. The porterhouse,
yes.
the tenderloin, the
No, it even
sirloin
looks like
steaks. It does. A lot of meat. there.
Absolutely, and one little rabbit.
I'm munching on a leg here right now on this drumstick, and oh.
It's tender, very tender.
Bob, can you taste the different ingredients in here?
Yeah, there's a little tad of lemon or something in here, and unusual recipe. I mean, I like it, but this is an unusual recipe.
Very. We got onions, mushrooms, green pepper, and a lot of green pepper. And you really don't taste them. The juice kind of mellows it out. Lemon juice and orange juice and beef broth. Gonna add a cup of beef broth. And it soaks it up quite a bit.
Of course, beef broth is very compatible. You could use chicken broth
Oh, absolutely.
with rabbit because it is a
Would
lot
be-
like chicken.
Right.
This is odd.
Orange juice.
That's orange juice?
Orange
Orange
juice.
juice.
3/4 of a cup.
Hey, if that doesn't pucker you up, try this.
And then lemon juice, 1/4 cup of lemon juice.
Holy cats.
Yep. Almost looks like a sweet and sour. And okay, we're not going to saute our mushrooms and green peppers that you usually do first.
These green peppers are good.
Oh, they are. Very, very good. Ginger. Now, this is ground ginger. Some people prefer to use, just slice it. Just slice the root and fry it. But
I don't
we're
know
gonna
if I
use
can really
ground.
taste ginger. I'm not quite sure what it.
Oh, you probably could
If I know what it.
yeah,
well, I'll have to
right.
taste some separately
Yep.
sometime.
and parsley.
Probably use fresh or dry.
Yeah, you could. You wouldn't want to add that much fresh. And just a touch of salt and pepper.
I tell you, that looks so good simmering
Oh,
right there, doesn't
yes.
it?
Yep. And it smells just delicious.
Just think, Bob. Rabbit cooked in lemon juice, orange juice,
You
beef
know-
broth.
You know what just knocks me out about this? Is it's not sweet.
No, you'd think it'd be like a sweet and sour.
Sweet recipes
But it's
are really
not.
great, but this is just dynamite because it's good. You can taste the rabbit.
How long did you simmer it?
I simmered it for about 15 minutes, and then I did put it in the oven for about 45.
Just falls right off the bone. Outstanding. You know, Mort Neff, by the way, is going to be one of our judges in our Wild Game Cooking Contest.
Oh.
Yeah.
March 6th, our next PBS special. It's going to be great.
Hey, that's going to be
I'm
fun
looking
night.
forward to it.
This
yes.
recipe can't be a winner, though, because it was already on the show. It'll be in our cookbook we're coming out with
That's
for
right.
that pledge special. Terrific. This is called what again?
Rabbit Delight.
Mmm.
Recipe
go
says
rabbit
it all.
Time to go rabbit hunting. Bob, why don't you tell the folks where they can get a copy of this fantastic recipe? What's been the biggest change in the past 20 years? I mean, you've seen it from way back in the 30s, 40s.
Biggest change.
Is it better now than it was then, or was it better then?
I think it's better now. I think it's better now with the tremendous fishing we have and the big game is concerned. You know as well as I do that the deer herd is prospering. It's proliferating. It's going up all the time. The population, you can't beat that. So the golden years are not all behind us. All I can say is that there is a strong trend toward anti-hunting that by people who don't really understand. And it's your job today to bring the truth to them about it. It's not the killing. It's not the killing. It's the pleasure of the hunt. It's for sure.